One of the most hotly talked about races in the entire country as we look ahead to the midterms is the Senate race in Pennsylvania. And until about a week ago, here's what everyone knew about the Senate race in Pennsylvania. They knew that Dr. Oz, the guy from the TV doctor guy, was running, and he had Trump's endorsement. Even though Dr. Oz seems kind of like a Democrat, and he's been caught on air defending abortion, and he seems to have a lot of policy positions. They're pretty decidedly Democrat positions. A lot of people didn't even know he was a Republican. Then the other candidate was David McCormick. David McCormick, CEO of Bridgewater, largest hedge fund in the world, sort of a moderate Republican type. I think he had filed a brief with the Supreme Court in defense of gay marriage during the Obergefell case. He had been taking positions that were pretty pro-China throughout his career. Certainly isn't the only politician to have done that, but still seems more like a centrist, moderate type of Republican. And so a lot of conservatives thought, well, all right, that's it. Those are my choices. And then over the past week, seemingly out of nowhere, comes Kathy Barnette. And there have been polls that have been released in just the past few days. Dr. Oz, big TV star, lots of money, lots of backing. David McCormick, extraordinarily wealthy hedge fund CEO. And then Kathy Barnette, this woman who came out of nowhere, statistically now tied with the two biggest guys in the race. So I said, all right, we got to bring Kathy on the show so that I can talk to her. I haven't heard a whole lot about her because all the oxygen has been sucked out of the room by the other candidates. Kathy, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love that recap.
I want to be fair to the other guys. I mean, I don't know Dr. Oz. I don't know David McCormick. I have nothing against them personally. But I just sort of felt, as a conservative myself, I'm slightly to the right of Attila the Hun, I just thought that the conservative voice was not really being necessarily represented in this race. And you are running a campaign not merely on the kind of centrist, moderate fiscal issues. You're running a campaign that is focused in large part on social issues.
You know, social issues, economic issues, foreign affairs issues, right? I mean, we've been running for 13 months now. Now, if you're looking at the media, I just crawled from under a rock yesterday, but it's not. We've been running a very consistent race for 13 months. We started out the gate doing 900 miles a week. Then we bumped it up to 1,000 miles a week. For the past several months, we've been doing 1,500 miles a week all across the Commonwealth. So the reason why people here in Pennsylvania know me is because I'm one of the only candidates who've been in front of them. We had about 7 debates. Barnette Oz and Dave McCormick only showed up to 2 of them. We've had numerous forums. I can only remember seeing them at 2 of them. And so they've had their campaign has, primarily been one of, very glossy and expensive TV ads and getting high name endorsements to come into the state, whereas mine was focused on the people. And when you spend that much time with the people, you begin to understand what matters to them most. And I had the good sense to lean into that because what they are concerned about, I too am concerned about. We all feel as though something has gone fundamentally wrong with how our nation is being governed. That has been the center of my message to the people of Pennsylvania, is that we can do better than what we have. I presented myself as a better option. And now people are mad that I have, that I ran an extraordinarily good campaign, and they're mad at it.
Is that what you attribute the success to? Are you gaining a lot of traction and a ton of momentum right now because you've been out there hitting the ground, knocking on doors? Is it because you are maybe speaking to the issues in a different way, notably on abortion? Abortion is the big issue that's come out this week because of the potential overrule of Roe versus Wade. You have very strong pro-life views. Do you think that plays some role in it? Is it some combination?
Yeah, it's a combination. We've been in a statistical tie for first place for probably over 4 weeks now. Again, the media is just figuring it out, right? You had Greg Kelly on Newsmax calling me the woman in red. And I was like, Greg, my name is Kathy. He said, oh, honey, right? So the media refused to say my name. I was on Sean Hannity for about 7 times between his radio show and television show prior to Mehmet Oz jumping into the race. And he loved me and would talk about me even when I wasn't on air with him. And all of a sudden, he's doing, a part of the, I don't know, it's very insidious what is happening right now. And to a lot of Americans, I believe it is unnerving that the swamp does not just consist of Democrats and that some of the people who are quote unquote Republicans who decry critical race theory are now not critical race theory, sorry, cancel culture are now trying to cancel me.
Yeah. We decry critical race theory too. That's part of it too.
We all hate it. It's all bad too. I don't like critical race theory. I've never talked about defunding the police. I've never evolved on my stance on Black Lives Matter.
This is something I think it's really important to bring up because yesterday I noticed a lot of blue check marks all over social media were saying this Kathy Barnette lady, she might be a snake, she might be a wolf in sheep's clothing because she's tweeted out and posted videos about BLM and defunding the police. And so I said, okay, whenever blue checks say anything, I automatically am skeptical. And so I went and looked into it. And what was so amazing was you had used a hashtag, BLM, hashtag defund the police, to link to a video in which you attacked BLM and in which you attacked the idea of defunding the police.
Yes, it's so, these people think we're stupid. I tell you no lie. And it's one of the one of my common points is that they think we're stupid. You have this hedge fund guy who's walking around in faded blue jeans, acting like Opie from Muskogee. You have Mehmet Oz with an identity crisis. He doesn't know if he's America first or Turkey first. He doesn't know if he lives in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. Is he a conservative or is he a liberal? But one thing we do know is that our nation is in crisis right now. We don't have time for these people to figure out who their true identity is. We need someone. If we've learned anything over these past 2 years, with Democrats primarily jumping down our throats, putting their foot on our businesses and on our children and on our way of life, is that we need real leadership. And that is what I am offering to the people of Pennsylvania. So although mainstream media didn't get a chance to get their pound of flesh out of me, the people of Pennsylvania have been vetting me the entire time. And they can't stand the thought that the people are going to choose their leadership and not them.
Well, now, since the media have not given you a whole lot of attention until now, you've sort of forced the issue by consistently doing well in the polls. Who are you? Who are the biography that we have is Kathy Barnette is a veteran, a former adjunct professor of corporate finance, conservative political commentator. I've followed you a bit, just in recent months on social media and if you make an appearance on TV or radio. So, I think people might have familiarity with you that way. But who are you? If Kathy Barnette is going to be the next senator from Pennsylvania, what are the people getting?
Yeah, listen, I grew up on a pig farm in southern Alabama. I grew up in a home with no insulation, no running water, an outhouse in the back, and a well on the side. When I say poor, we couldn't afford the other O. We were just po. But my family loved me. I felt loved. And I saw them working very hard. I saw them waking up early, going to bed late. I get emotional when I think about it because they never called me a victim. I don't remember one time, and now as a Black woman married to a Black man raising Black children, I can't help but to compare and contrast the culture in which my children are growing up in today versus the one in which I grew up in. If my family wanted to decry victimhood, they had ample reason to do so. And yet, I don't remember one time anyone ever looking at me and saying, Kathy, you're Black, you're a woman, you're poor, all the odds are against you. And because they never gave me a victim mentality, I became the first in my family to go and finish college. I spent 10 years in the military. I was accepted into officer candidacy school. I worked in the financial industry, corporate America, an adjunct professor of corporate finance. I authored my first book, homeschooled my kids, political commentator, a lot of different journeys in life. And now I'm running for U.S. Senate, and not just running, but crushing it, right? Because only in America do you hear my story. This is the greatest country that has ever existed, but the country that allowed me to be able to claw my way from underneath a rock, I believe, is about to come to a close. These people are very serious. We have two people that the influencers, with some of the influencers within our party, have decided they should run. They're both globalists. They both have very strong ties to the World Economic Forum. I'm talking about Mehmet Oz and Dave McCormick. Dave McCormick, he invests portions of the sovereign wealth fund of the Communist Party of China. You don't get that kind of access to China and their markets and their money without also selling yourself out to the one China way. I don't think you can be in bed with China financially and not also in bed with China ideologically. And yet he says, my experience is going to make me tough on China. Although we haven't seen any of that toughness to date, we've seen him profit tremendously from his relationships with China. And now we have Mehmet Oz, who says he's a conservative, but when he had a large platform, I don't remember one time ever watching a show that brought forward conservative values. In fact, I always saw the opposite. But now, don't let your lying eyes fool you, he would tell us. I'm a conservative. And so I believe what they're mad about is that the people, once again, it's like 2016 being played all over again, is that how dare we think we get to choose who's going to be our elected official. But I'm excited. I'm so encouraged with all the support and the people who are standing up for me. It is all lies. I have not evolved and I won't.
Now, so let's say that the description you've given is a fair one, and David, and this is my read on the situation too, is David McCormick is a kind of business Republican. He's the really focused on just kind of economic matters, and that's at least the first part of his message. And then Dr. Oz, I don't know what Dr. Oz is. The Democrat, it seems like he was for a lot of his life, and he's recently gone on TV just decrying pro-life laws, or radio rather, decrying pro-life laws. So I don't know. He seems further left. And so let's say that you're the real conservative in the race. Well, the old Buckley rule is you got to vote for the most right-wing viable candidate. So what do you make of the criticism that Kathy Barnette, I might agree with her 100%. She might be the most rock-ribbed conservative, but, she's just not going to win the general.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of people walking around with a crystal ball who think they can predict the future. They didn't predict me, so I wouldn't. They're not on a good track record right now. Listen, you can go to my Facebook page, right? We've been very upfront about it. Not only do I have a very strong grasp on the Republican base here in Pennsylvania, but unlike all the other candidates, you will see me in a room full of Black men changing their voter registration from Democrat to Republican. You will see me in Philadelphia, in Chinatown. I have their vote. You will see me being ushered into a room full of Amish people who came out very strong for Donald Trump in 2016. And you will hear them say, listen to her. She has our values. I am the only person in this race who has the ability to walk into every nook and cranny of this Commonwealth and go and earn those votes. I believe we have the better story to tell in the Republican Party. I believe we have the better story. I just believe we keep picking people who suck at telling it. And many of the insiders, influencers within our party would tell us, oh, no, Steve, we need to get a squishy Republican. And the people are saying, how has that worked for us? I don't think it's worked very well for us to send, warm bodies with an R next to their name to Washington, D.C. and expect them to stand up for our values. Who are we if now we're going to let somebody come in who his entire career he's been talking pro-abortion, and now all of a sudden, just because he's now ardently pro-life? I mean, who are we? Do we really believe that we should have a secure border? And yet we're going to go back to Mehmet Oz, whose family business was hit with a $95 million immigration fine because of a scheme, not just one or two illegals into the country, but $95 million worth of a fine, right? The largest fine. But now we don't care about that anymore. I believe when you're looking at the people, I've always tried to make distinction between the people within the Republican Party and those who would be in the influencers within the Republican Party. The people who are going to go to the polls on Tuesday and who are going to vote for me, they believe that it means something to say that you are a conservative Republican. But then you have some within the influencer group. I think they are less concerned about winning and more concerned about keeping power.
So let's say that you win. I think your reaction to this is totally right, which is all these people making the predictions, they never predicted me, so maybe put the crystal balls away for a second. Let's say that you win the nomination. Right now you're in a statistical tie, so even if you're a point behind one guy or a point ahead of another guy, you know, the momentum would appear to be with you right now. Let's say you win the primary, you go to Washington, D.C., day one you're in office. What's the program?
You can go to my website at barnetteforsenate.com. I just put out a couple of weeks ago my on day one agenda. It's the top 10 things. Number 6, I talk about ethics and transparency. I think we lack that tremendously. I believe that is probably the reason why we have such bad actors in Washington, D.C., the reason why it's such a swamp, right? People go in like paupers, and within 2 years, they're multimillionaires, right? And so my husband and I have committed to only holding and investing and not holding and investing in individual stocks. We will only invest in mutual funds that reflects the majority of Americans. And if you remember a couple of weeks or maybe about a month ago, Nancy Pelosi cashed in on a $35 million Google stock that rolls up under one of her committees. That's called insider trading. And that's a problem. And when they asked her about it, she said, "Oh, capitalism, really socialist?" So, so there are a number of things. But when people say pick one issue in our nation, it's like trying to drink from a fire hydrant. Everything seems to be on fire. We all know it, whether it's foreign affairs, whether it's disinflation, which is as a direct result primarily of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is broken, and it has done so much to push this inflation. It's not transitory. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It is here for a period of time, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. I still have family on that pig farm in Alabama, although the farm is no longer operable. Families still live there, and times are tough, and it's going to get tougher. And I think that those are the issues that people want to see us talk about in a substantive way. You can't take someone who's been a part of the World Economic Forum. Most people know what that is. Some people, and these ESG scores that McCormick talks glowingly about. I've heard him at least 2 times talk about the ESG and how great they are and all of that. It is the complete opposite of that.
For those who don't know, the ESG refers to the environmental, social, and governance issues. It's just basically a way that investment firms can push a woke agenda onto the companies that they're investing in. It's a really, really big problem. I haven't paid very much attention to David McCormick or Dr. Oz for that matter. So if either of those guys, if you want to come on and refute what Kathy is saying, you're more than welcome to come on. But as you're saying it, Kathy, yes. I mean, if someone's pushing ESG, that's a big problem.
He absolutely has, and my team and I, we've already we put out there on social media. Some of the statements that have been made with his firm, with him as CEO of that firm, creating a division within the World Economic Forum to combat systemic racism. And I think it's very interesting that his team is now just cutting and slicing pieces of long form discussions that I was having across social media and trying to make it seem like I'm calling the nation systemically racist. I have not evolved on anything. So keep your head on a swivel, people in Pennsylvania. Do not allow them to remove your one and only chance of actually getting someone in office who will actually help you vote, who will be your voice.
No, I'll tell you, Kathy, I'm so glad you mentioned that about the videos, because it was the same thing. Yesterday, when people were posting your tweets and insinuating that you were saying the opposite of what you really said, I saw someone posted this kind of oddly edited video, and it said, this is the real Kathy Barnette. And I said, okay, well, let me, I don't know a lot about this woman. Let me see. And it was all these little clips, and it would say, white, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not saying this directly. White people have privilege, and black people are oppressed, and it'd be all these kind of little clipped things. And I said, why does it clip that way? And then I looked for the fuller videos, and it was just like the tweet. In the fuller videos, it was you arguing against those positions. You'd say the leftists are saying that white people have privilege, and I disagree with that. And I just thought, this is so dishonest, this kind of attack that's coming on Kathy Barnette right now. And it had kind of the opposite effect of what I think it was intended to do, which is, previously, I don't live in Pennsylvania, I don't have a whole lot of opinion in the race, but I saw, wait, if the attacks on Kathy Barnette are this dishonest, this woman must be pretty good.
I would agree with that.
All right, Kathy, one more time, where can people find you?
BarnettForSenate.com.
All right, wonderful. Kathy, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.